At the beginning of the movie, a scared businessman is being recorded spilling the secrets about a certain dangerous group. After the meeting, the man heads to his car when suddenly a Jeep rams into him. Despite his efforts, the Jeep pushes the car over the edge of the parking lot. We then meet Will Gerard, an English teacher, on a date with his wife Laura, a musician, celebrating their anniversary. They see the report of the man's death on the news and note how despite the city going to hell, they are having a good time. The two go dancing with Will's best friend Jimmy, the principal of the school where Will works, and his wife. After tearing up the sheets that night, Will presents Laura with a necklace as a gift to commemorate their love. After work the next day, Will and Jimmy meet up for their regular chess match, which they take quite seriously. Meanwhile, Laura is finishing up her orchestra rehearsal. She gets to her car when a man suddenly turns up with a gun and drags her out. He then throws her into the backseat, and despite Laura fighting, the man has his way with her brutally. Will and Jimmy say goodnight to each other when Will gets the notification on his cell phone and rushes to a nearby hospital. He is led to a room where he is shocked to see Laura beaten and bruised, barely responding to him. Outside, Jimmy and another friend, Trudy, come to give their support. Jimmy is certain that the cops will catch the criminal and offers to be on call for Will if he needs help. Will is sitting in the waiting room alone when he is approached by a man in a suit who apologizes about his wife. He introduces himself as Simon, having experienced a similar incident a few years ago. Simon knows the man who assaulted Laura, naming him as Hodge, a repeat offender. Simon surprisingly offers to take care of Hodge for Will to avoid a lengthy trial and traumatizing Laura even more. He claims to represent an organization that handles criminals who escape the law and is interested in his case. In return, they may ask a small favor of Will in the future. Will is hesitant to get involved, but enticed with the idea of getting revenge for Laura, he agrees to the plan. He is instructed to purchase 2 chocolate bars from the vending machines to signal his agreement to the plan, and Will does this under the watchful eyes of a few people, not sure who is waiting for the signal. That night, Hodge returns to his apartment, gleaming over his prize, Laura's necklace. Suddenly, a scared man wearing gloves enters the apartment, frightening Hodge. The man aims his gun, and Hodge tries fighting back but ends up getting killed. The following day, Will is handed a package by a man claiming to be from insurance, but he opens it to see Hodge's dead pick and Laura's necklace. He breaks the news about her attacker's death to a recovering Laura, who cries tears of relief. The two soon return home, Laura's face still swollen from the attack, with Will promising to be with her. Laura apologizes but now wants new locks and bars on the windows. 6 months later, Will and Laura are still trying to get over the incident. She wants to buy a gun, but Will refuses to keep guns in the house. Nevertheless, Laura goes to get shooting lessons at the local range and purchases pepper spray. The two are hanging out at the local bar when Will gets a call from Simon wanting to talk. Simon directs him to a store to buy a pack of gum, then exit through the back where he sees Simon in a car waiting for him. A hesitant Will enters where Simon hands him an envelope, telling him to head to a zoo's mailbox to mail it at exactly 4:15. The following day, Will arrives at the zoo, but before he can mail the letter, he gets a call telling him to open it. Inside is a picture of a man and his family along with a phone number, and Simon orders him to keep an eye out for the man and alert them with the phrase "the hungry white rabbit jumps." Will then sees the wife and her kids and starts following them around the zoo but sees no sign of the man. The following day in his class, Will is shocked to see the phone number written on his board. He calls Simon angrily, but Simon is outside the school waiting on him. Will refuses to continue their deal due to the invasion of privacy, but Simon ignores him, reminding him of their deal. Afterwards, Will bumps into a man who hands him an envelope and disappears. Inside are documents accusing Will's target of being a registered offender. Will gets home but soon gets another call from Simon giving him instructions on how to kill his target by pushing him over a bridge along his regular route. Will tries to protest, but Simon ignores him and hangs up. The following morning, Laura can sense that something is wrong but thinks she is to blame, but Will reassures her that it's nothing before leaving for work. Outside, he sees his car tires slashed, forcing him to follow Simon's instructions and take the bus. The bus gets to the overpass, but Will does not get off and goes to work. After school, Simon comes to confront him, reminding him of their agreement, but Will refuses to continue doing their bidding as he is not a killer. He tells Simon to leave him alone before leaving. Will and Laura go out for dinner that evening when suddenly Simon turns up pretending to be a former co-worker of Will's. He takes a seat, but Will gets him to leave, now realizing the trouble he is in. The two get back home, where Will sees the magnets on his fridge spelling out choose. He begins checking around the rest of the house but finds nothing. He leaves the apartment, pretending to grab something from his car, and calls the number Simon left behind. He connects to a funeral home and hears a man on the other line, and orders them to tell Simon to leave his family. Will gets back to his apartment to find the door open, and Laura thinks he was inside all along. On the fridge, he sees the word choose once more. The next morning, Will gets off at the overpass where he sees his target get off another bus. Will waits for the man to approach and tries talking to him, but the man, already suspecting an attack, tries to fight but ends up falling over the edge to his death. Will rushes from the scene and jumps on the next bus, all shaken up. Meanwhile, Laura is going through Will's car when she finds her necklace in the glove box. Will gets a call from Simon, thanking him for completing the job and relieving him from their agreement. He sees two students fighting and ends up striking one of the students, getting suspended for 3 weeks. He gets home, and Laura confronts him with the necklace. Will refuses to explain, so Laura leaves to go to rehearsals. Soon after, there is a knock, and 2 detectives enter to put Will under arrest for murder. Will is taken in for interrogation, where he denies killing anyone. The cops then show him a video from a surveillance camera at the overpass showing Will and then the victim, Alan, heading to the overpass but not the actual confrontation as the camera there was disabled. They also show Will a video from Alan's cell phone of Will at the zoo while he was tailing Alan's family. Will learns that Alan was actually an investigative journalist. Seeing no other way out, Will demands a lawyer, but the lieutenant refuses as Will has not been charged. He begins to ask Will some simple, weird questions until he asks about the hungry rabbit. Once Will replies, the lieutenant frees Will, telling him to leave the city before Simon comes to kill him. Laura tries to reach out to Will after rehearsals, but the cops answer his cell phone. Will gets to a payphone and leaves a message with Trudy for Laura that he will try to meet her after rehearsals the next day. He then goes to his high school, where he does some research into Alan and sees the location of his wake. The following day, Will sneaks into Laura's rehearsal location and gets her attention. He explains everything that is going on, and Laura understands and would have done the same for him. She gives him money and a gun she had bought before they spot the cops entering the rehearsal, and Will rushes out. Will attends Alan's wake, where he sees Alan's ID and steals it. He then learns from Alan's friends that Alan was investigating Simon's vigilante organization and now understands why Simon wanted him dead. Meanwhile, a woman inside sees Will and makes a call, and soon, 2 of Simon's men turn up. Will spots the men and takes off running. While one chases after him, the other jumps into Simon's car. Will runs onto the highway, climbing over the edge before Simon and the men can get to him. He gets down onto the highway, dropping his cell phone in the process. One man tries to get to him but gets run over and dragged a few feet. Laura is leaving her building when a detective turns up claiming to have info to prove Will innocent. She gets into the car but soon realizes the men are not cops. As the car comes to a stop, Laura sprays the 2 men and escapes. Will then breaks into Alan's workplace, finds his desk, and steals some documents, escaping before he can be found out. On the street, he sees a cop car, so Will slips into a nearby hotel, where he steals a coat and valet ticket. He gets the car and drives to an alley where he goes through Alan's documents to see receipts from a gas station where Alan usually stops. Will drives to the gas station and learns from the attendant that Alan had a unit nearby and pays the man for information on how to get inside. Will crashes into the unit and easily gets inside, where he sees a boat. He starts to dig around. Meanwhile, a newspaper man arrives at the gas station bringing papers with Will's wanted photo on the front page. On the boat, Will finds a box, which he breaks into. As he leaves, he sees the cops pull up and speeds away. Will leads the cops on a high-speed chase through the city. He tries to lose the cops at the train crossing, but when that fails, he drives head-on into the cops, causing them to crash. The cop is fine, so Will drives away. He gets to an alley where he plays a DVD from the lockbox. It shows the man from the beginning of the movie being interviewed by Alan about the vigilante organization. Will also sees photos of Simon meeting with Jimmy, his friend. Will rushes over to Jimmy's house and bursts in with a gun. Jimmy admits to joining the organization after his brother was killed and reveals he was the one who asked the lieutenant to release Will. Will demands to know Simon's real name, putting the gun to Jimmy's head. Will leaves, unaware he is being followed. He makes a stop when a man comes at him with a gun, calling him a registered offender, but Will manages to overpower the scared man and allows him to leave. Will calls Simon, revealing his real name as Eugene Cook, a businessman, and sends him a video of Alan's interview. Will wants the tapes from the overpass, which prove he didn't kill Alan, and Simon agrees to make a trade at the Superdome, where a monster truck show is underway. Meanwhile, Jimmy goes by Trudy, asking for Laura's location, claiming to be helping her. He tracks down Laura, but men burst into the room. Simon is at the show when he gets a call from Will, giving him instructions on where to go. The 2 meet, but Simon then shows Will a picture of a gagged Laura, telling him to follow him. The two enter an abandoned mall where Will sees Laura being held by Jimmy and some other men. Simon takes the tapes from Will, then orders the men to kill both Will and Laura. Will calls Simon a sick man, causing him to rant on. Suddenly, Jimmy shoots the man next to Laura, while Will tackles another man over the escalators. Jimmy and Simon exchange gunfire, as he did not join the organization to kill innocent people. Jimmy is shot in the chest and killed by Simon. Laura takes off running, but Simon grabs her. Will begins to beat Simon's face in, and the two end up falling over an escalator. Simon recovers and is about to shoot Will when Laura shoots and kills him. The lieutenant then turns up at the scene, telling Will and Laura that Jimmy and Simon killed each other and the couple was not there. He wants Will to join his organization, but Will refuses, and the two leave. After this, Will is cleared of all charges as his fight with Alan is released to the public. Will heads over to Alan's former workplace to hand over the disc to another reporter, but when the man takes the disc, he says, "The hungry rabbit jumps," and leaves.